My name is Sohail Gondal, and I run Endeavour Venture Partners, and we work with and invest in startups, predominantly in the edtech, fintech, that sort of space. And we're based in London, but we split our time between London and the Middle East. No, it's my third time attending Startup Istanbul, and one of the things that I've been very, very impressed by is every year the quality of the startups that are presenting has been going up. Which is not a criticism of the ones that were here 3 years ago when I first attended, but the quality has been sort of really been improving. The type of startups that are coming, the kind of business models that they have to support kind of what they're doing has really been increasing every year. And this event has become a sort of a must come to for me now. And it's one I highly recommend to all of my peers, particularly in London. So I think in the previous 2 years, we were not ready at that point to be looking at startups outside of London. But this year, we're actively looking at startups. Now we've got a bit of a foundation, looking at startups that are spread a little bit more in these markets where the growth potential is a lot higher, which is not really the same thing in sort of some of the mature markets that we've been looking at. So we basically have 3 areas that we look at around a startup, and they're all around the founders of the company, right? So the first thing is we look at sort of the strategic foresight, right? So are they looking at an industry in a new way, right? So because you have lots of established incumbents that have been in the industry for years and years, and lots of new startups that are coming. But is this set of entrepreneurs looking at that same industry in a new way, right? And seeing opportunities in a different sort of way. So the first thing is strategic foresight. The second thing is executional agility, right? So with most startups, as entrepreneurs will tell you, it is a very difficult thing to do, right? You don't have the support networks, the cards are stacked against you. But do you have the ability to be able to figure that out and execute and get things done? And then the third thing is a little bit more difficult to sort of put your finger on, right? We call it the entrepreneur's X factor. Right? It's the innovative resilience. So with every hit that you take, which as a startup founder, you'll hit many roadblocks, can you get around it, right? Or do you just give up? So on the one hand, there's this flexibility you need to have between pushing ahead when everyone is telling you you're crazy, but at the same time knowing when to pivot, right? So a great example is the British sort of inventor and entrepreneur Dyson, who just last week announced that they were going to cancel their plans for an electric car, right? Now, one of the great things about successful entrepreneurs is they know when to pivot, yeah? And that's the third thing that we look for in our entrepreneurs. Yeah, so our predominant focus is around financial services, education, and sort of retail. But the key thing about those industries is, are the entrepreneurs that we're looking to invest in looking at those industries in a new way, yeah, in an innovative way. And for us, that's more important. So we will look at things in other sort of industries, but it's more important that you are seeing things in an innovative and new way than just the idea around an industry. So what I mean by that is we may see a really good idea in retail, but maybe that is portable to healthcare, right? Because it's just looking at things in a different way. So that, for us, that's more important than just the industry that we're focusing in on. Yes, so kind of there are startup events. I attended some in Dubai when I was based sort of in Dubai, which is probably more sort of similar. I've also been to the ones in sort of, in inverted commas, more mature markets, right? So whether that be sort of London or the US. And I guess the difference really is there are some commonalities, yeah? The passion entrepreneurs have, their willingness to sort of think outside of the box is what is common. What I find really interesting about Startup Istanbul, though, is that it's the sort of a meeting point. Istanbul is known to be the meeting point between the East and the West, right? So that brings a different way of thinking. So what I see in Startup Istanbul that I don't see in other sort of startup events is here, people are not looking to follow the same path that's been followed before. They're looking to leapfrog, right? So, here the advantage that entrepreneurs have is some of the challenges and constraints they have mean they have to leapfrog, right? So your disadvantage can become an advantage. So whether that's mobile penetration or internet penetration, which may not be at the same level as they are in mature markets, entrepreneurs here find a way around it, right? And they turn it to an advantage as opposed to being sort of constrained by it. And seeing that in examples at Startup Istanbul over the last 3 years has been really, really rewarding and fascinating. So look, I would absolutely not recommend Startup Istanbul to any investors, because that means competition for us, right? No, all joking aside, Startup Istanbul is highly recommended for entrepreneurs to learn more about what's happening in the markets that they're building their startups in. It's great for investors to come and see and meet with entrepreneurs and see a whole range of startups. So and Istanbul is a beautiful city, and any excuse to come to Istanbul is always a good thing. So look, thinking about how to improve Startup Istanbul is actually quite a difficult question, because I think it's such a high quality sort of event. But if there was something, it would be more breakout spaces for entrepreneurs and investors to sort of connect. Well, not just entrepreneurs and investors, but any like-minded sort of groups to sort of invest. So whether that was like creating a theme around edtech or fintech and allowing people just to sort of congregate. I think that's happening now, but it's happening informally, right? So if there were streams where you could have around either a industry vertical or a technology or AI or something, where people could just congregate, right, and allow that sort of exchange of information and knowledge to happen, I think that would be one thing. But it's very difficult to improve something that is as fantastic as Startup Istanbul is. So look, I guess any event that you have, right, the value of that event is only realized by what you put into it, right? So just coming to events and expecting to sort of draw down from them, you only get a limited amount. You get more value when you input into the event. So some of us are lucky enough to present or be judges on sort of panels, but everyone attending has something to contribute sort of to this environment. Being an entrepreneur can be one of the loneliest jobs that you can have, right? So the value of these events is you can come and you can see the challenges, and you're not alone, right? You can see other entrepreneurs and you can learn from them, right? How did they get over some of the problems that you've had? And equally, there's opportunities for you to share, right? We don't lose out by helping others. We all benefit and we all grow from it. And Startup Istanbul is a wonderful platform sort of for doing that.